I thought that Blair Witch actually worked like surprisingly well for what it was.
I was completely on board with the hype. Like from the moment that I saw the flyer about the 3 missing filmmakers posted outside Melnitz, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And it was only when I got to the end where I'm like, oh, it's an ad. And I'm like, wow, it's a lot of hype around like the potential of the movie, and even all the people who'd seen it, like describing the movie, and they get really into it, and it's it's like you're listening to a campfire story. Like a lot of creepy secondhand information came out of that. But then I saw the movie,
right,
and it's just a bunch of annoying filmmakers. And I'm glad to see them die because they suck.
Well, maybe it benefited because because I remember the hype because, 1999.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting because, like, oh, man, like, they made this movie for, like, $5 and it made a jillion or whatever. Yeah. And I think the budget eventually worked out to be, like, $60K, I want to say. I think that's what I read.
Was that the advertising budget?
Well, I mean, you don't get marketing like that for $60K, I don't think.
Right.
No, yeah, like early viral marketing, and everyone was very excited about it. And the thing was, I missed it. I think probably because I was too busy seeing Fight Club and The Matrix multiple times.
Yeah, that or Office Space. A lot of good movies came out that year.
Yeah, 1999, baby. But
yeah. And The Phantom Menace came out.
Ugh.
They can't all be winners. A lot of notable movies came out that year.
That was a lot of watershed movies. But we were speaking of the Blair Witch, because
there ain't even a Blair Witch at the end. Which, I know.
Well, I didn't. I hope there isn't a love witch at the end.
Oh well, in that case, nothing would even happen. And we still have some unresolved business with the love witch that I feel like we need to get to, but that's probably an episode for another time. Her character has no arc.
Yeah. Yeah, and like as a kind of like a hollow, vindictive shell of a person, she's not that interesting. Because I've seen movies about hollow, vindictive shells of people, and they've been fascinating.
Right.
No,
yeah.
That's funny because I was thinking about the Love Witch today, and I realized that. You know what it was? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, do me a favor. As soon as I finish my point from earlier, why don't you say to me, oh, Jen, what were you going to say about the Love Witch that you were thinking about today? Because I didn't finish what I was saying about the Blair bitch.
The Blair Witch, okay.
So, 1999, obviously, big year for movies. Like, movies with lasting cultural impact. And I totally missed the Blair Witch train. I think because I wasn't watching much horror at the time. And I don't know. I just never got around to seeing it as much as it was like a sensation and like an early viral sensation.
Yeah, I don't remember horror having much of a cultural footprint at the time, but
maybe that was when it started. I mean,
could be, yeah.
Because I mean, in the 80s you had slashers.
Yeah, you have all the like classic 80s slasher movies that people are trying to bury now because they don't remember that they existed like within a certain cultural context.
Yeah, it was like early 80s was, coming off of Halloween in 78, like the cultural moment was slashers. And then there was kind of like a little brief kind of peak for vampire films in the late 80s, which probably has something to do with AIDS. I don't know. But I'm too dumb to talk about that right now. And I only just watched Near Dark, so there it is. But horror was... But... No, I think what it was is that horror was so shit on as a genre because it was just like gore for stupid teenagers.
Oh, it's before it got elevated, right?
Ugh, well, don't get me started on that.
Yeah, I know.
But it was shit that you saw in the video store with the scary covers. It was just like, that's just crap. That's just, it's a video nasties. It's shit that teenagers like, blah, blah, blah. And even though horror was... kind of grappling with social critique and other issues very like
Yeah, I mean,
resonant themes, people didn't give a fuck because it was just, everybody kind of had that Siskel and Ebert opinion of like, slashers kind of went in the cultural bin with like hair metal. It was just like, ugh, like this will rot your brain. Like this is worthless.
Right. Yeah. I mean, forgetting that
maybe
horror exists to like show the ugly things about ourselves that you can't put into another genre.
Right. And maybe it was because of that it took until 1999 for people to be like, oh, well, like horror is, even though like, I don't think Blair Witch is like that deep of a movie.
It is not.
I did like it, and I was surprised because quite a few people, not just yourself, are like, oh, fucking Blair Witch, like who gives a shit? It's just some assholes getting killed in the woods.
Right.
I actually, and I think this has a lot to do with its massive influence on the genre, because it's like the stagecoach of horror movies, because every fucking horrible, stupid cliche, and not all of them, but a hell of a lot of them progressed from this movie.
Yeah,
and
it set the standard.
And to give an example, like I had Shudder on today because I was just kind of cruising around looking for something to watch. And, kind of looking, because we are going to be talking about found footage films, I was looking around for more in that vein because it's become so popular as a jumping off point for horror. And I landed
like
on
the VHS series.
Right. And I landed on something similar, which I don't, what the fuck was it called? Okay, I'm going to pause briefly to figure out what this was because I want to say what I was actually watching.
All right.
Oh, come on, you fucking piece of shit. No, I don't want to continue watching The Love Witch.
Why would you even ask?
Ugh. Blah.
Yeah.
Fuck. It was something that was shot in... They obviously shot something on 16. Fuck.
Yeah.
It's fucking up my story because I don't remember what the fuck this movie was. That's my list. Shit the fuck. The fuck was I watching? This is so annoying.
I mean, it's not in your history or...
Oh, you know what? Forget it. Let me take it another way. So, I was on Shudder, just kind of cruising around for something to watch, and I came across a found footage horror movie, and I think it is instructive that it was so generic that I don't remember what the fuck it was called.
That's a good sign.
But it was from 2021 or 2022, maybe, I think, and it started off with the title card saying, oh, this is about these three people disappeared while looking for the something mine.
Okay.
And one of the very first shots is of a girl crying into the camera and saying how sorry she is to everyone. And I was like, oh, I wonder where this came from.
I believe I've seen that done, yes.
Yeah, and so it made me realize that, I don't think that Blair Witch was the most path-breaking movie of all time, but it certainly sort of established these as tropes. What a disgusting word.
Yeah.
For the audience, found footage horror movie, this is what you get. You get you get these kinds of shots, you get these kinds of situations, you get these kinds of characters, and it's and you're like, God damn, everybody watched this movie, and everybody came away and made kind of a poorer copy of it. And having seen a number of poorer copies of the Blair Witch Project, and then watching Blair Witch, I was like, oh, this is actually not bad for what it is. I understand why it was so influential. And there was actually, and when you see those kinds of poor copies, and because people are so bad at writing, that to see a script which is reasonably paced and set up, and in which the characters are believable human beings, is oh my God, this is amazing. And it's Blair Witch is not that amazing. It's a little bit dry.
Yeah.
Not a lot happens in it.
Yeah, because it is like the three actors just sort of improvising a story.
Yeah, and I did have a couple of quibbles about how the character stories kind of play out, but I did like that it's like, okay, like these are three distinct personalities. Like the the director Heather is like kind of, she's all business. She's like kind of bossy, and you feel like that's gonna create some friction later. You have Josh, who is like, this guy's like, he seems agreeable, but then like, man, does he go off the fucking rails? And then you have Mike, who is like, oh, we don't know this guy. Like, we actually aren't friends with him, and this is the first time working with him, and it's like he's kind of a loose cannon. But then there's like a little bit of a swerve where it's like Josh is the one who just like completely loses his mind and then just gets like killed. And then Mike and Heather are kind of like forced together just because of their circumstances. And again, this is not like, this is not Sir Robert Bolt kind of writing. It's not that elevated of material, but it works reasonably well, especially in light of all the fucking garbage that people went out and made after they fucking saw the Blair Witch Project.
I think you're listening to Jen recalibrating her expectations in real time.
Well, but like, think of all the times that you and we've been hanging out. We tuned into B-Movie TV, and there's some like shot on digital video post 2010 fucking garbage, which is about a bunch of assholes in a remote place, and you're like, oh my god, another one of these fucking movies. Like, I cannot take it.
Yeah, I love how much I hate them. That was my suggestion for because for October, B-Movie TV shows horror movies, all day, and then they show, a sleazy softcore movie at midnight. And last year, Ace is like, hey, help me come up with, themed days. And, people responded, and they gave him a lot of ideas, like, let's have a vampire day, let's have a werewolf day, let's have, like, an alien day, like a possession day. And I said, let's have a day of movies about assholes in the woods. And, Ace softened that, where he just softened it to, in the woods. But, they're ones like, and these are the movies that I hate the most on B-Movie TV. They're Carver, let's see, Monsters in the Woods, which has the guy from Showgirls. Everybody got AIDS and shit.
Is that literally the fucking title?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Geez, what's the other one?
That's just depressing.
Yeah. Another one called Pelt. Those characters are awful. Just like obnoxious as all shit. The other one, the Ridge. Oh man, I hate those fucking people.
The ridge on the underside of my dick.
Right, yeah. That one is great because, like, there's one character in it that, like, it just seems like the actor has this, because he can't be a good actor if he's in this movie, but he just has, like, this kind of passive-aggressive bro cadence to just the way he is, and I'm like, this guy's fucking insufferable. So it is those, like, 4 movies. There's another one that I can't remember the name of, and that one's actually not as bad because they're people trying to survive a situation rather than just, like, being in the woods and just being cunty to each other, which kind of is unfortunately filled in where character development would be in a lot of these movies, which is kind of,
because the people writing these movies don't know how to visualize a human being. They don't know how to create a human being out of whole cloth and imagine that person with an inner life and motivations and maybe their own agenda, which might lead to something narratively interesting.
Right, yeah. Conflict is arguing.
Right.
So, yeah,
it's the J.J. Abrams method of writing characters.
Right, yeah. So I hate all those movies. And he showed them on a whole day, and I was pleased as punch. Where I'm just like, oh, this movie sucks. Oh, I hate this movie. Just being able to watch them back to back to back, it was delightful.
Just soaking in like a warm bath of your own bile.
Yes.
Well, fortunately, we're not talking about those movies.
But I could. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be the special edition.
Yeah.
It's just it's going to be like one of those like YouTube videos, which is like 11 hours of somebody ranting about, women in comics or something.
Right, yeah. It's this is when horror movies went woke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so those movies are all terrible and they're all derivative. And they aren't necessarily even found footage movies. They're just assholes in the woods.
Right, because what we're going to be talking about specifically is found footage films, a couple of influential ones, one certainly more than the other, and then one which came out very recently that Tim and I both liked that we haven't heard anyone else talking about.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that one.
Yeah. So I may have vented my spleen a little about Blair Witch, but I don't know. Like,
yeah, through the map in the river, it's like, whatever. You guys are making this up as you go along. I don't care about any of you.
I mean, I can certainly understand that. But having seen so many movies with just like real shitty characters being shitty to each other, I felt that this was believable, and especially because the movie was paced very well. Okay. Like, it actually starts out like pretty boring, which is actually fine because...
Yeah, I can forgive that because a lot of these movies have to do that. They have to like draw you in and set a baseline to be like, okay, this is just a normal movie and nothing terrible is going to happen.
Yeah, and in a way that lends more authenticity to the film. I think that's true of Blair Witch. It's certainly true of the McPherson Tape, which starts out incredibly boring.
Yeah, and that's a normal narrative structure. You have your first act and things are going okay until something changes. It just adds an extra layer of, verisimilitude. To just be like, okay, we're watching normal people with their day-to-day lives. The problem is that you can do that and convey things about character in a mundane way rather than just being like straight mundane. I mean, it may be asking a lot for me to say, why can't you do both things in a found footage horror movie? I guess it's more of a nice to have than a requirement.
And I think that it might have a lot to do with kind of the way these films are put together, very minimal budget, and in an improvisational style.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying this in a mean way. Like, not every director is Mike Leigh.
Right, yeah.
So,
or even Bruce Lee, for that matter.
Which Bruce Lee are you talking about? Are you talking about the original Bruce Lee? Are you talking about Bruce L.I. Lee? Are you talking about...
I'm talking about Dragon, quote-unquote, Bruce L-I-E-G-H.
I remember one time when you texted me and you were like, oh, Bruce Ree. That's a new one. Because literally, there was a guy in the credits credited Bruce R-H-E-E.
Yeah, I was just like, ooh, that's bad.
It's like, can they even do that?
Hey, if it fools the movie-going rubes, then yes. I mean, is it ethical to say that your three filmmakers died in the production of Blair Witch, even though their careers only did?
Yeah, and it's pretty interesting because like it's not like you've heard a lot from those three people, so it's almost authentic. In that respect.
It's kind of meta. Yeah, they're going method.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the McPherson Tape, or do you want to finish what you had to say about the Love Witch?
Well, really quickly, as an aside, last night I watched because I kind of missed the J horror wave. I hadn't even seen Ringu until like a few days ago. Shocking, I know, but yeah, I totally missed that whole cultural that other horror genre explosion, which was Japanese horror films. I watched a movie called Cure, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and I started watching it in much the same way I watch a lot of... Sorry?
Not about Robert Smith of The Cure.
Yeah, it was like just him and his cats. It was really boring.
Yeah. Go on.
But I like the part where he applied his lipstick, though. Anyway, so I watched...
Tousless his hair.
So...
Puts on some weight.
I started off watching this movie in much the same way I watch a lot of other movies. Like, I'm usually...
just with open contempt. Just like, oh, this... How dare you?
No, that's you. No,
no, that's for everything else besides movies. In general.
So I started off watching this in much the same way that
podcast.
I started off watching this movie in much the same way that I start watching most movies, which is iPad in hand, like sort of sketching.
Right.
And by the end, I was completely frozen in my chair, afraid to move a muscle, like practically holding my breath.
Oh, so this is a good movie then.
It is. It's really amazing.
Great.
And, you know, slept on by me, obviously, because it came out in like 1997. But I'm really glad I saw it, and now I want to see all of Kiyoshi Kurosawa's other stuff. But the point that I'm getting at is that after I watched it, like after I took like 10 or 15 minutes to kind of like get my breath back, I'm not kidding. I was so unsettled.
Turn on all the lights, you know, check that the doors are locked.
Well, yeah, I had to like make sure it was safe to move. After I calmed down, I was thinking, like, you know, Kurosawa obviously has just such a precise command of this medium. The way that the movie is paced, the mise en scène, like every choice is made for a reason and is deployed in exactly the right place. It is an incredible piece of filmmaking. And today, I was thinking about the movie we did our last episode about, The Love Witch, and I was like, shit, you know, that's the thing about The Love Witch, is that it's like 75% there, in a way, because it is a breathtaking looking film. I really could not have more praise for the way The Love Witch looked, but at its core, it is narratively and thematically vapid. And yes, I know that Anna Biller has talked about how, like, oh, well, you know, I want to do something that was, you know, I wanted a strong heroine and, you know, feminist themes and color symbolism, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, that's great, but it's like an inch deep.
Yeah, it's in service of what?
It's like the metaphor about, like, biting into a chocolate egg and it just crumbles.
Or it could be, you know, in other terms, something else that's been, you know, in the zeitgeist lately. It's like one of those like TikTok lifestyle, you know, videos. Where it's like, oh, you know, yeah. It's like
this stay-at-home girlfriend, except this was the
stay-at-home witch.
Stay-at-home witch, yeah. Like it's like all aesthetics. It's like a Pinterest movie.
Right, yeah, but there's nothing to it. You're like, well, could you maybe, if it's not too much trouble, give your character an arc?
Yeah,
and change or learn or something.
And
no?
Maybe
All
it's
right,
unfair
nice
to, and maybe it's unfair to compare Anna Biller to Kiyoshi Kurosawa, like whatever. But like, again, Kurosawa has just such a complete command of what he's doing on screen, and Anna Biller has like command of 75% of it.
Right, yeah, maybe
it's like there's something missing. It's like if you were missing like a particular part of your brain that robbed you of speech, that made you aphasic, but you created beautiful pictures. It's like that is what The Love Witch feels like.
It's a set designer and costumer directing a movie.
Right. So, and you know, a set designer and costume designer who is like has feminist ideas, but those feminist ideas are not very interesting. They're like feminist ideas that I fucking move past in my 40s. Yeah, not even ideas,
just like kind of feminist notions. Just like I read the Cliff's Notes of,
right.
You know, I got the general idea of what it's about.
Yeah, it's like, oh, did you know that, like, men hate it when you're stripping, but you're also talking about gender theory? It's like, oh, damn, that's a deep fucking observation right there.
Yeah, wow, men get bored when you're being boring. Finally, the truth can be told.
Yeah, so that's my read on The Love Witch. Maybe we can finally put that one to bed. But
no, we're going to talk about it more later.
Oh, God, we're haunted.
Right.
Maybe that's the true curse of The Love Witch.
Wow.
And you thought it was just menstruation.
Every 4 weeks, you're going to have to talk about The Love Witch.
For 6 days straight.
I'm so mad about this movie. I don't know why. It's my own curse.
But I have talked a lot.
I know.
So I would like Tim to take it for a while, because I don't... Tim, did you feel that I articulated well enough what we were talking about tonight?
No, we haven't even done the intro of the show. Well, we talked about the Blair Witch. We talked about J-horror. We talked about the Love Witch, for fuck's sake. That damaged movie. You want to talk about the McPherson Tape? You want to talk about the Backrooms? You want to talk about horror in the high desert?
Yes, I would, but I don't know if you do. You have your little do you have your little teaser?
Have you seen this? Maybe you saw it in the news, because this totally happened for real.
Welcome to Have You Seen This?
The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten media.
All discussions will be spoiler heavy.
You have been warned.
You know,
Yeah?
one last thing about Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
It is 100% better than another extremely culturally influential movie that came out a few years later.
Name.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You know. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Fuck that movie, that home video.
Technically another found footage movie, but we are not going to talk about it except to express our utter contempt for it. I, of course, am talking about Paranormal Activity. Now, I know
made a movie to write off a home renovation.
That's smart, because what do you make, like $100 billion?
I guess so.
You know, you said that Blair Witch was about like assholes arguing in the woods. That
at least they left the house. Okay, you got me there.
I would argue that the characters in Blair Witch, at least I feel as a viewer that I can understand like what kind of people they are, where they're coming from. I kind of like that really negative depiction of certain people, because it's like like the shit that Mike does in the movie, kicking the map into the creek and all that shit, his essential childishness, but then the kind of the shocking way that Josh turns against Heather, like in a really vicious way, such that Mike actually tries to defend her. I like Heather as like, generally capable, but also kind of an abrasive character who's a little bit bossy and high-handed, who later falls apart. The two jokers in fucking Paranormal Activity, like, you are just praying for their deaths as soon as they start speaking. You're like, why do I give a single fuck about these two bougie morons like carping at each other in their shitty McMansion? Like, just fucking die already.
Yeah,
die.
It's this Chad and his wife who hates him. And
admittedly, like, Blair Witch stretches out a fairly thin premise to feature length. It made a lot of hay out of it, but it's not the most entrancing like horror narrative ever made. Paranormal Activity is just like a load of fucking shit.
Yeah, it's awful.
It is so fucking stupid. Do not give a single fuck about the characters. I don't care if this bitch has been haunted for her whole life. Like, you just do not give a shit. It is not scary. Like I said on Twitter, if you were scared by that movie, you have the brain of a toddler. I'm sorry. Yeah,
it is jump scares, which are the lowest form of horror, and it is tension waiting for something to happen, and then something doesn't happen. And you're like, God damn it, movie.
And I am not opposed to jump scares, because I've seen some really good ones.
Yeah, well, if that's all your movie has to offer.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Because, and I'm thinking of a particular moment in Cure when I literally gasped out loud. And you could say, oh, it's a jump scare, but it's such an emotionally loaded moment that it's like a full body shock. It's not just like, oh God,
door
that's
slamming.
gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
loud noise.
Oh fuck, like that's awful. And it's because the movie has been slowly building up to that. And Paranormal Activity gives you fuck all.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, the time-lapse footage, I think, is probably the one innovation, but
whoopty shit.
Yeah, whoopty shit, there you go. So, anyway, that can be easily parodied. So that movie sucks.
Someone should do that.
Yeah, someone should do that. God. That's from, like, 2008.
Jesus, yeah. So, well, because I keep blathering, and I guess this is, like, a pretty rich vein to talk about, Tim, you watch a fuck of a lot of horror, probably more than I do, even though I also enjoy the genre. What for you are kind of like the definitive, like, found footage movies?
I mean, geez, I would have to go looking because, I mean, I know the most recent one that I'm just aching to talk about. But like, say what you will, I like anthology horror movies, which means I like the VHS series. I mean, some segments I like more than others, but I like that it's a, showcase of up and coming, horror directors who I don't know the names of because I'm not as tuned in as I would like to be. But there's that. There was, a while ago, I think it was the ABCs of Death, which was seriously like 26, like 3-minute films.
That's
about
fun.
each letter of the alphabet. Yeah. And it was funny because, a mutual friend of ours, whom I lived with for a time, like the episode for like X or Y, or the segment for X or Y, I'm like, this is like he made this. This is like Sean made this. So, it was goofy. But yeah, so yeah, that's like the newer stuff that I liked. I mean, I do like anthology horror, far and away, for most other genres. As for found footage, geez, I'm drawing a blank trying to think of, cause,
well, maybe that's all you need to say. If most found footage is so pervasive and yet so unmemorable, and in fact, like, when I was on Shudder today, like I took a look at another couple of movies from the found, which start from the found footage premise, which looked sort of interesting. I felt better about one than the other. One was called Deadstream. And it is basically a kind of disgraced YouTuber who's just gotten his stream remonetized, who says, hey, I'm going to spend the night in a haunted house. And he's got all the equipment on him. He, padlocks the front door, throws away the key. And it starts off very strong. And I'm looking forward to finishing it because it is actually genuinely funny. It remains to be seen if there are scares in it, but I haven't gotten that far. There was another one I looked at, which is another Shudder original called Warning, Do Not Play, which is pretty funny because it's like, oh shit.
Right, yeah. Damn it, but it told me right at the top.
Yeah, exactly. But Stupid. I hit play anyway, and I would like to finish that one as well, but it's...
well, you'll die in 7 days after you finish watching it. I mean, talking about Ringu.
Well, then I don't have to watch more shitty movies for this podcast.
Thank God. I won't be interrupted anymore.
But the premise seems to be, and it's the kind of thing that people who finance movies love. It's like a simple premise. It's like, what if there was a video shot by a ghost?
You're right.
It's Korean, and the main character is a Korean film student, and I was getting that little prickle at the back of my neck where I was like, okay, is this just going to be like too like self-reflexive for words? But I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah, that was kind of what I felt going in watching the One Cut of the Dead, which is about a zombie movie that is disrupted by zombies. But it isn't. And after you see it, you're like, oh, This is not what I thought it was at all, which is actually redeems it because, I have very little patience for zombie movies anymore.
Same. And based on your recommendation, for that reason, I definitely want to see it because I'm like, well, Tim is not just going to recommend a zombie movie to me because he knows how I feel about zombie movies. So it's probably going to be something special.
So this has been us talking about movies that we haven't watched or finished.
Yeah. God damn. It's just because there's so much to talk about because found footage is... I mean, I don't know if
the
it's...
tough thing to do about with found footage is to stand out, I feel, because you can't see Bored Ape Yacht Club the movie, you can't have the found footage NFT, that's already been spent. You can't be like, oh, this event actually really for real happened. It's like the seminal movie for this genre is 20 years old and then some. You can't put a new movie on Shudder and be like, oh yeah, this is based on true events. No, it fucking isn't. I wasn't born yesterday.
Yeah, that ship has sailed.
Yeah, so you have to drive it further into whatever direction to make it seem more valid. And one of the ones that I do want to talk about is Horror in the High Desert, because it does offer a framing device that completely blindsides you. It isn't just saying, oh, here's a spooky VHS tape with events that actually happened on it, and you're just supposed to take it as, authentic when you're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's clever and very au courant in its framing device, which has a lot to do with why I got drawn into it, and also has a conclusion which is genuinely fucking scary.
Yeah, you want to talk about Cure. Yeah. So stay tuned.
But to kind of get this back on the track, maybe we should go back to what is considered the kind of the prototypical found footage horror movie.
Okay.
It is, well, why don't you tell us about it, Tim?
I would, but I don't know what you're talking about.
The McPherson Tape.
Okay. Yeah, we're talking about going back even further than Blair Witch. There's the McPherson
10 years
Tape.
earlier.
Yeah, which is like a decade in movie terms.
Is that metric?
Yes, it's the metric year that the French switched to for about a week. Yeah, the McPherson Tape is, and speaking of VHS, McPherson Tape is about an alien invasion at a remote house, and there is a VHS segment that is basically the same idea, and it being VHS, it is much more intense and gaudy, rather than the McPherson Tape, which is kind of low key, and it does follow that same.
Do you mean low key or low budget?
a little bit of both. Low light, that too, because it was a VHS camcorder, and yeah, the f-stop on those was what, 8, so you aren't getting a lot of detail in a lot of these shots. But
yeah, it was amazing. They actually had a 10K in there, but the
still
camcorder just wasn't capable
shadows.
Of.
Yeah.
They were using a camcorder, but they put on one of those lenses that Kubrick used for Barry Lyndon. They got from fucking NASA, because they were like, oh well, the power goes out, and so we're going to be shooting by candlelight. So they put this giant NASA lens on their Sony Handycam.
Yeah, and they gave the actors those braces that they use for daguerreotypes to keep them steady so that they remain in focus.
It was really hard to move the camera at all.
Yeah.
All this is true facts, by the way.
Yeah.
But...
So, yeah, making a handheld movie with a 0.7 f-stop is exceedingly difficult. That's why Kubrick had to do, 160 takes.
I thought it was just because he was an asshole.
I mean, hey, it can be both.
601, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So the McPherson Tape is from the 80s, and that is a shot-on-video horror of an alien invasion. And yeah, like I said, there's a version of that in, I think, VHS 2, but it is just it follows the same structure that we were talking about, where it is 30 minutes of nothing. It's a kid's birthday. It is, playing cards with grandma. It's, ribbing your relatives and being like, hey, I got the sweet camcorder, and wasting time while you establish the characters. And to say establish the characters, I'm being generous with that. It is reminding that there are 5 or so different people, and this is what they look like. They
tried.
Right. Well, they tried with nothing to start with.
Right. And and this was definitely something that I wanted to ask after you watched it, was did you catch the little kind of middle child dynamic that was going on in the movie?
I mean, I caught one person being like constantly browbeaten by the others, and I'm like, yeah, I can feel that.
So you did.
Yeah, right.
That was definitely something that the director, a guy called Dean Alioto, actually admitted to. He said that he had that kind of dynamic in the film because it was one that he'd like kind of personally experienced. So, I think he was drawing on his own.
Right. Yeah, there it is.
Right. And that did tickle me because at first, because like I said earlier, the movie starts off like pretty dull, which that's how these movies have to start out dull.
Yeah, you can expect that because you're like, why would someone start, in media res about an alien invasion? These are supposed to be like sudden things that happen.
Yeah, and honestly, that would probably be more realistic, but like narratively, it would be kind of fucked. So they want to ease you in.
Your movie would be 20 minutes long.
Right. So I thought that maybe this movie was going to be.
Maybe they should try that. Maybe that would work better. I don't know.
Perhaps.
Yeah, maybe starting where you whip out the phone, being like, "What is that?"
Right. And then you get eaten immediately.
So.
It's an anthology horror film where it's an anthology horror film where all the segments are like 4 seconds long. That's hard to do, but
just being hit by a tire.
Rubber 2.
Yeah.
The 4-second sequel. I thought that this movie was going to be maybe some like not that great improv and not very well drawn characters, but I don't want to say an attempt was made. I think they did a reasonable job for a movie that was made for like about $1.
Right, yeah. For something that was like, let's get 5 people together in this place that we already have access to and just shoot for 2 hours.
Right. So I do like that there actually are sort of like perceptible characters in this. Like you got a couple of asshole brothers. Mm-hmm. You got the middle child brother. Other characters are slightly less well defined, except for mom. Yeah. Grandma. Mom/grandma.
Yeah. Again, like more asshole characters where it's like, I'm tuning out at that. Maybe it's because I just see it so consistently where it's like, why do I want to spend any time with this person?
At least it isn't just like kind of horny, cunty teenagers, but it's like, we've all had holidays with our family. Like we've been here. Like unless you're one of the lucky people who is like no contact with your shitty family, like we've experienced this.
Or even just the outside notion that you get along.
Disgusting.
Someone has to be like that, I guess. I don't know.
I don't want to see that Norman Rockwell shit. Fuck that. But
why not Norman Rockwell Alien Invasion? Because that's the thing where, and I think I talked about this before. We've done more episodes than I can count, than I care to remember. But that always seemed like...
Tim can only count up to 150.
I can only count to...
Sorry, I'm not there to give you a treat.
Yeah, well, recording this podcast is a treat, and subscribe to our Patreon.
Every time Tim completes an episode, I feed him a little some candy corn off the palm of my hand.
Right, yeah, some peppermints. It was a thing that I think horror at some point shied away from about being authentic, because you'll see it, and it's something that like with age, and I mentioned this on my MySpace a while ago, that there's a point where where you watch like Nightmare on Elm Street and like you see all the kids getting killed by Freddy and you're like, oh, this must be so devastating to their parents. where finally like that perspective flips a little. Mm-hmm. And it's something like, in the same way that like Spielberg swapped out, the guns in E.T. with walkie-talkies, where you become like, soft as shit in your old age. there's something that happened in horror where the characters just kind of became laughably expendable. There's not any sort of point where you feel, pathos and grief for Kevin Bacon getting stabbed through the neck with an arrow. We're just like, these are just disposable assholes. Let's laugh as we watch them die, because it creates a comfortable kind of cynical buffer between you and the movie. Like, you don't allow yourself an opportunity to be actually scared by it, or worse, emotionally affected, because
right.
You're just kind of laughing it off. It's I mean, at least Scream, sort of turned into The Skid, or where they're like, we're gonna commit to this bit where it's like everyone is dumb and makes stupid decisions and they get killed for it. But outside of that, when they're playing it straight, that's the problem, is that if you have just like, here's another horror movie with a bunch of expendable assholes, it's like, well, why do I care whether this person gets killed? I might actually be relieved to see them die.
Well, it's possible that and Scream was incredibly popular, and in a way, like, helped revive horror as a genre.
Right.
But that's Wes Craven, who'd like been there, done that, and who
he's pretty good.
Understands like what it takes to make like compelling characters in situations like in a horror film. It's not just all the people who like saw Scream or saw Nightmare on Elm Street or saw Last House on the Left or saw Blair Witch Project who were like, oh fuck, like that would be sick if we made a fucking movie.
Yeah, that's how you got The Last Slumber Party.
Or Paranormal Activity. Dude, wouldn't it be so sick if I like remodeled my house and like made a movie in it?
Yeah, I tell you what, you hit the chandelier with this broom and then I'll come out and I'll act really scared by it.
I mean, it is an inexpensive way to make a film if you already live in like a real shitty San Diego McMansion.
Right. Yeah. It's living in San Diego that is the true horror.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself, San Diego. I'll see you at Comic-Con. The other thing too about McPherson Tape is that you have character development, and it's kind of through janky improv. And something that I wanted to point out too is that there's the scene of the characters just kind of joshing around, improving in The Evil Dead, and that doesn't go well. And that's the the director, Sam Raimi, is talking about. This is why you don't let actors improv, because they're just like,
unless you're Mike Lee.
Right, yeah. They're just kind of coming up with stuff that doesn't really go anywhere. And it's like, okay, we gotta, like, this is fine as just like some loose character building stuff. But it's another, another movie that I hate. Hollywood's New Blood. That has a lot of actors either delivering terrible dialogue or sort of improvising their scenes, because there are that is another movie of assholes in the woods, and it is actors at a retreat, and like they're trying to come up with something to talk about for their their totem is to inspire them in their scene, and it's just it's just actors just kind of rambling on, much like I'm doing now.
I think actors need a firm hand,
exactly,
like a dog.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying, they are cattle. I'm saying they should be treated like cattle.
Thank you, Alfred.
Right. So you get kind of a similar improv cadence in McPherson Tape as you do when you let actors improv. When you let actors go off without a script.
I feel as though maybe it was because my expectations were so low.
Uh-huh.
Because I was like, okay, this is like made on a camcorder for about $5,000. And it's like a bunch of no names. And the director's like, oh yeah, I hired like some local improv actors. Like, oh boy, here we go.
Right, yeah.
So maybe I was just taken aback because, and this is important to mention, a version of the film without any credits made the rounds of UFOologists circles, and there were people who were convinced it was real.
Well, props to the filmmaker, not that they get any residuals off of that.
And this is the thing about that, because, and I don't remember what the fuck this movie. Was it Howard's Mill or something like that?
Grover's Mill?
Well, there was a movie that I found on Tubi that I started watching because I thought it was a true crime documentary, but like in 5 minutes I was like, oh, this is fake.
Oh,
and then I stopped watching. I did not, even knowing that McPherson Tape is staged, that it is actors improvising, and you know it's fake. I did not go like, oh shit, this is so fake. These people are obviously like it's credible improv in my opinion.
Yeah, it maybe if there's a line between like entertainment and verisimilitude or authenticity, it leans more on the authenticity side, where like, no, it doesn't have a 3-act structure because it's real life. You know, it's that thing, you know, the difference between stories and real life is that stories have to make sense. So it kind of, I can see them deliberately making that choice of being like, look, we're just going to let the camera roll. Whatever happens. People, you know, stay in your characters. We're going to introduce some aliens, and then whatever we get at the end, it's a document of what happened. We aren't, you know, forcing drama into this. We aren't faking it. We're just putting out a thing. And if it seems, you know, if it seems not entertaining, I guess to be not particularly judicious about it, then it's because, yeah, it's like real life. It's like you're having things in here you're having plot threads that don't pay off. You're having, you know, moments of what seem like wasted time because that's what you would find on a real tape. And if I can see them making that choice to present the McPherson Tape as that because it's the boring stuff that makes it look more real. And that's what they're after.
Right. And the other thing to mention is that I read the anecdote about it fooling people before I watched it. So, you know, and I saw stills from the movie. Like those are not like the most convincing grays, like in still format.
No.
So I was like, God, like you would have to be like a fucking dumbass to think this is real. And
or
watching it,
you're probably watching a multi-generation copy on a 13-inch CRT.
Ooh, that's actually a really fucking good point. But
right.
Like I was saying, upon watching it, I was like, okay, like this, and it probably helps to be like really, really anxious to find proof of visitors. But I was like, okay, like this isn't like the obvious work that I would have suspected from reading about the film and seeing stills from it. It's like, oh, well, damn, this looks like it could plausibly be someone's like birthday get together that goes horribly wrong.
Right. Yeah. I mean, hell, they even did, just a Susan of that in Signs.
Yes.
Where it's like, oh, here's the kid's birthday, and then an alien's walking down the street.
That part is actually legitimately scary.
Right. Yeah. So they took the McPherson tape and distilled it down into, an aside.
Right.
So that's probably, if McPherson Tape was made at the same time as Signs, that's probably something you would get. So, you kind of got a grade on a curve of, like the X-Files hadn't even come out yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what was this, 1989 or something?
Yeah.
And this is a sad thing about McPherson Tape. It was all set.
It was bootlegged. No.
Well, no. It was all set for a wider release, like not as proof of alien visitation. It was set for like a VHS release, as labeled as a fiction film or something.
Oh.
And it had a distributor, but then there was a warehouse fire.
Oh.
And the movie never really got that wide of a distribution. And in fact, it was probably more widely circulated in the beginning, like among like UFO communities. Yeah. So this may be why the McPherson Tape, well, for a lot of different reasons, but the McPherson Tape didn't have quite the cultural impact of the Blair Witch Project because, they didn't fucking take it to Sundance.
Classic mistake.
Well, it's not even that. It's like, you're like, oh shit, we got a distributor. This is fucking great, right?
Yeah.
Oh shit, our warehouse burned down.
Right. Yeah. Or that's what they want you to believe.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Shit.
Burned down by space lasers.
Jewish space lasers?
Yep. Yeah. By the Jew-run media. Wait, so someone's knocking on my door. Hang on.
Thank you, Kanye. But anyway,
I hope he loses all his money.
Yeah, it would be funny. Certainly access to his children. But
Right.
yeah, so McPherson Tape didn't really have the opportunity to get
break wide. Yeah.
as culturally significant as the Blair Witch Project did. But such is life.
And despite the alien costumes not looking that great, because if it were made today, you wouldn't just hire local kids. You'd get like, an endomorphic mime with like, acrobatics training to be like, hey, can you really weird up this alien?
I feel like today the aliens would look weird in like a different shitty way, because the aliens in McPherson Tape are literally played by 8-year-old children, like
Right.
little girls in gray alien masks. And they're shot, to be fair, they're shot from a distance. It's not like you get like a real close, you don't need like a close-up look at the aliens.
Right.
It's probably better that you don't get a close-up look.
Yeah, hide
at
the
them.
monster. Like Blair Witch did. They hid the monster for the entirety of the film.
Smart. And
Well, yeah, that was the thing that Sean pointed out too, where he's like, when you get to the end, is it going to be like an old woman just like running around going, because it's like that would be a huge disappointment, and we wouldn't be talking about Blair Witch now if they'd shown the witch.
It's going to be the witch from the Wonderful Land of Oz.
That's kind of horrifying. But she's gonna have like, a hooked nose and a pointy hat and like waving a broom around.
It's gonna be the witch from Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, that's scary, right?
Yeah. Sure.
She sings a song and it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's gonna be interminable.
I feel that today it would be some awful CGI monster. In the same vein as a found footage movie which I dislike very much, Cloverfield. I know everyone fucking thinks Cloverfield is great, but
yeah, who found that footage and why couldn't they just put it back?
If you want to talk about shitty characters arguing and getting killed, like that's Cloverfield. Like
Yeah,
I just
and that was a
really
big budget,
hate
too.
all of the people in Cloverfield. I hate J.J. Abrams. I hate
That's
the
understandable.
way he writes screenplays. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. Please go away forever and take your little pal Damon Lindelof with you.
You could even argue that that's, kind of the nadir of found footage movies is when, they got that big that you can have J.J. Abrams ruin it, with a big budget movie.
And yet it hasn't killed the genre. It's still shambling along. But I know people like the monster in Cloverfield, and I guess it's fine, but there's a point where it's just like not scary. Like looking at the megalophobia subreddit is scarier than Cloverfield.
Yeah, and I mean there's something there, but well, it's pointless to nitpick monster design. Either it works or it doesn't. I don't know.
But maybe I feel like the gray aliens are sort of passé at this point. There's been like an explosion of like really strong concept artists being able to get their material out there. Like it's any talented artist can get a well, maybe not a DeviantArt page, but you can get on Behance, you can get on Instagram, you can show your cool monsters to everyone. But all those monsters just kind of look like they all look
kind of samey or uninspired.
You know what? Like when I was a teenager, I really loved the book Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials, and like I feel that there haven't been many, like it's all hack at this point. It's like everybody saw that book and was like, oh fuck, that's cool, I'll do that. And there's like this glut of kind of cool looking monsters that aren't really iconic. That's what it is. It's the you're right. Like, to say that they're samey is correct, is because they're all like kind of the same,
generic,
like sinewy, sort of digitally rendered on a Wacom tablet kind of looking monsters. And there was one, for example, in the opening of spoilers, in the opening of Warning Do Not Play. Like, when there's a reveal of the monster, it's like, it's like some
movie. I told you not to, Jen.
I told you, Tim, I want to die. But when you see the monster, it's like, okay, like it's this sinewy thing that's kind of like bloody looking, and it lunges at the camera. It's like
just gross. Okay,
whoopty
great.
shit.
Yeah.
It's not that exciting, and I don't know. Monsters aren't that exciting. Like, and compare that to sort of and it's hack to say it, but like the iconic monsters of, say, like the old Universal horror shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we all fucking know what Frankenstein's monster looks like the Karloff version.
Yeah.
But if you put on the 1931 Frankenstein, if you go to the Criterion channel, put on the 1931 Frankenstein and tell me that reveal of the creature isn't fucking breathtaking, like, all these years later.
Yeah, well, that's it endures. It's an enduring image and design, and that's kind of why it set the high watermark. In the same way that that's why a lot of these found footage movies emulate Blair Witch. It set the mold.
Yeah.
And a lot of these monsters are like different in their own way. Like, they have some kind of characteristic that reasons why they are the way they are. And I think a lot of the problem with other monsters is it's like, yeah, right. So, like, it's just a different version of something that we kind of already know. But it's like, what is this monster's, what is its deal? What is it about? And I think maybe that's the concept that's missing in a lot of this concept art.
Yeah, it's because they all look like Witchblade action figures. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be it. One of the things, just as an aside, that I liked about sort of retconning the gray alien image, because, we've seen, kids in, paper mache masks with, like the big bug eyes, but it looks really fakey. I do like, a dramatization of actual events, the Alien Abduction movie Fire in the Sky.
Oh, yeah, like very memorable effects in that movie, even though the movie itself is not that memorable.
Right, yeah. And I can't believe at the time, my dad tried to explain to me that it wasn't real, but what does he know? But the thing that I liked about that movie is the way that they dealt with the appearance of the gray alien, is that the gray alien that you come to know, like, that's their spacesuit. And it's like, oh, okay, I can buy that. That's why it looks fakey, because it's, a plastic helmet with a visor.
Ah, neat.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's cool. That makes sense. That's a way of explaining why they, why these aliens are walking around in, like a black leotard with a plastic head. It's like, oh, it's their spacesuit. And there's a real gross, lumpy alien with sagging skin and little beady eyes under that.
Yeah.
And another thing, too, if you want to talk about, the sameness of a lot of alien designs, and even the history of the gray alien, because I know we talked about it in an earlier episode when I was mentioning Betty and Barney Hill. Mm-hmm. Betty, of course, having this obsession about alien abductions, and Barney being like, yeah, fine, you crazy. Why do they not have no-fault divorce yet? So the two of them putting up with each other, Betty going on and on about this alien abduction thing, and she describing the gray alien, which is, I think, an idea that came from an episode of The Twilight Zone that was on around at the time, and her, being an impressionable, dummy, being like, oh yeah, that's the alien that I saw. And then that became the pervasive appearance of aliens, where it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's like us, but in the future, we'd all be like little and spindly and hairless with big eyes. Like, yeah, you can kind of make sense of that. But before that, it was like Golden Age sci-fi aliens, where it's just like, oh, and this one has gold skin, and this one is made of fire, and just like, what the fuck? Like, it was just off the hook. Like, that's what people were describing their alien encounters, and then it all kind of through like sort of mass media consolidation, became it's gray aliens and flying saucers.
Well, I think, and that's kind of the enchanting thing about Barlow's Guide to Extraterrestrials, is that because it's drawing from classic science fiction,
Right,
you get a whole cantina full of like weird fucking aliens.
Yeah.
Some more plausible than others.
Right. Yeah. So to see that more, to see more distinctive designs in your aliens or your monsters, like that is interesting and appealing.
Right.
Right. So I don't know how we got on that topic, other than, the gray alien costumes look kind of phony in the McPherson tape, but there are ways around that.
They work well enough for what the movie is.
Right, and the movie is,
the payoff of the movie is chilling.
Yeah, the payoff is you get to see the aliens. They have invaded.
Yeah, and just it's it's like a perfectly cut scream. It's a very it's a shocking bit of editing, and it does sell the whole premise very well.
Yeah, and I'd like to. There's a book that was pointed out to me. I'm not going to read it because I can't. There's a book.
Tim can't read.
Yeah. Why can't Tim read? It's my favorite Timmy Amos album.
It's because he's too busy napping.
Oh yeah, for real. That reminds me. But anyway, no, it's a book pointed out to me.
You want to take the rest of the episode off?
I want to take the rest of my life off.
Well, I got this video you should watch.
Okay, great. We'll only have to do one more episode. Hang on, there's a girl coming out of my TV. Yeah.
So you had a book that you can't read.
Yeah, it was called Roadside Picnic, and I can't just not read it because it's in Russian. But it kind of bears a similarity to the basic premise of McPherson Tape, because in McPherson Tape, the lights go out in the house, and they go outside and they see a UFO, and there are a couple of aliens arguing, which kind of in a nice sort of postmodern sense, like, if this were Rick and Morty or something, it would be like a kid getting his learner's permit or something. It's like, I can't believe you crashed into the earth again. But Roadside Picnic kind of has an interesting take on kind of like, what's it, Rendezvous with Rama?
Right.
That is
Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah, that is aliens come, but they aren't about you. Like, they're here to do a thing, and then they leave. Because, Roadside Picnic is, the aliens show up, they fuck up, like, huge swaths of the earth accidentally. Just, like, random places where it's like that Annihilation movie. With, Yeah, with, what's her name, Padme. But, yeah, it's like a weird place where it's like, just don't go there. So it is interesting in that it gives the alien some unknowable character beyond just being like, we're here to steal your girlfriend and take her to Mars.
Yeah, like kind of the 50s model of alien invaders, where the aliens are always entranced by our Earth cone bras.
Right, yeah. So in this book, it's the alien, the aliens stop at a number of places, leave their garbage behind, basically, and then leave.
They're just like us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking of Betty Draper and that having the picnic in the one episode of Mad Men. Like, that is the one, I think, evocative moment from that entire boring series. Is because they stop and have like a roadside picnic, and they have their lunch or whatever, and they have their drinks and take the wrapping off their sandwiches, and then at the end she shakes out the blanket and just leaves all the trash behind, and they go. It's like, oh yeah, that was a different time. So yeah, in the same way that this is kind of a roadside picnic of the aliens, and they're just passing through, and whoever is whatever human is unfortunate enough to be caught in their path, like they're completely outclassed and baffled by whatever it is the aliens are doing here. So there's an element of that in McPherson Tape where it's like, we don't know what the aliens want. Are they here to terrorize us or just dick around? Why are they even here? Alien reasons.
Yeah, they're enigmatic and then actively malevolent.
Yeah. So, and there's nothing you can really do about it. It's just, I mean, they're that starfaring civilization. You can't stand up against that. Unless
Pretty
you have
much.
the power of germs. Cannot stress that enough.
Dun dun dun.
I mean, look what it did to humanity.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah.
The chances of anything coming from Mars were
Yeah.
1,000,000 to 1, they said. Great album.
Yeah.
But, we talked about that a few episodes ago.
Yeah,
so let's
and
move on.
I prefer the Alan Partridge cover of that. But speaking of returning to the well,
yes, the Alan Partridge Project.
yes,
Oh man, has he ever done has Steve Coogan ever done a cover as Alan Partridge of Eye in the Sky?
oh,
Because that would be very funny.
that would be yeah. I mean, he mostly sticks to the Kate Bush thing.
Aha!
Yes, the man with a child in his eyes.
It's me, Kathy. I'm so cold. Now we have to start an Alan Partridge jar.
Yeah, I digress. Did you want to talk about the Backrooms? Because I've been playing the Stanley Parable, and I'm primed for that.
Oh, and yeah, that's kind of a fun little diversion, and in fact, is what inspired the episode. I found out about this little short called Backrooms. I don't even remember where I heard about it, but I went on YouTube and watched it, and I was like, oh, that is a fun little horror short, which is a little more interesting than the average creepypasta, because this is one, speaking of genres of our time, this is one that was inspired by creepypasta, which from you, I gather, is a thing on Reddit. It's very popular.
Yeah, I mean, you can't not mention, SCP.
Right, yeah, which,
that's
boy.
sort of crowdsourced creepypasta.
Yeah, and which is about as good as you would expect. It's like...
It runs the gamut, much like, the videos for the Backrooms.
Right, and just to kind of briefly touch on SCP, that's Secure, Contain, Protect. It's a website which is basically like all creepypasta with like a shared backstory.
Yeah.
Each piece is
it's like a report describing some kind of paranormal thing, and
yeah, that's
it has
exactly
its own
it.
Yeah, it has its own jargon and its own sort of like loosely consistent rules that they play by, and some of them are like, this is like, you read it and you're like, oh, it's so scary, then you're like, wait a minute, this is dumb and doesn't make any sense. But then there are other things that you're just like, it's very chilling.
Well, yeah, my usual practice, because I've gone back periodically to look at the SCP website, and because I don't have time to fuck around, I just go to the page that has the most highly rated SCPs
definitely.
of all time.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not going to wade through garbage to get to the good ones. I don't have the time or the inclination. And I have to say, the last time I visited the SCP website, I found that even like the top of the heap stuff, like 90% of it was just like, that was okay.
Yeah, it's like, I see what you're saying, but I'm not scared. But it does follow in kind of a tradition of, horror, much like what we're discussing in this episode, like the found footage horror. It has, that veneer of authenticity to be like,
right.
Yeah, like we aren't just telling you a horror story. We're giving you the authentic report of things that actually happened, in the same way that McPherson Tape isn't saying we're going to shoot this alien invasion. It's like, we're going to have a kid's birthday party and aliens are going to show up. It's
the little frisson of verisimilitude is what.
Right, yeah. And it's the same.
The viewer.
Yeah, and it goes, even further back, like H.P. Lovecraft stories are all, this is the, entry of the journal of the dead friend of the guy who's telling you the story. And you're like, oh, shit, this really happened. Some guy said his friend wrote it in his journal. I guess it must be true.
That goes back as at least as far as Poe, and maybe even further, because like
well, yeah, like the structure of Bram Stoker's Dracula,
or I was gonna say like the. Well, do you mean the movie or the book?
I mean the book.
Okay, because I had a moment where I was like, "Wait, are you talking about the movie?" Because that was after Poe.
Right. Yeah.
No, but I think you were hitting on the same thing I was, which was that it's epistolary in form, so it's like, okay, well, oh no, maybe this happened because these are people writing about their experience. It's not like a storybook.
Right. Yeah. It isn't someone just making it up. It isn't someone saying, "Hey, there's a toaster that makes you refer to it as yourself." I'm like, what? Like, is it, what the hell? But it's like, no, if it's this is a report of someone who described this thing that happened. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, that's pretty freaky.
One more thing about...
Because it is couched in, like, the language of, I'm just telling you something that I heard.
Right. And one more thing about the SCP website. I went back and read one of the articles that I found like genuinely scary. The imagery in it was memorable. It was, and maybe some of you are familiar with this. And I don't know, you've probably read it, Tim. It's the one with basically like a never-ending stairwell.
Probably. Yeah. Well, I think they cribbed that from House of Leaves.
Probably, but this it's one of the older pieces on the site. It's been continually popular. It's still very highly rated, but because I think it was written like in the like mid 2000s, like I went back and looked at it and I was like, like this is still like a scary premise, but a thing that bothers me about the way it's written is that like. A basic tenet of the SCP universe is that you have these disposable test subjects.
Yeah.
It's implied that these are, prisoners or people that are otherwise procured because it doesn't fucking matter if they get killed horribly.
Yeah, they won't be missed, yeah.
And in this particular one, there was, at one point, they sent in a black guy. And usually the test subject, or I think they're like D-class subjects or whatever.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
They're not usually identified by any, they certainly don't have names. They just have a number, and they aren't usually described except just in the most rudimentary ways. But this one is described as an African-American male, and sure enough, like the writer gives him dialogue which is like just really kind of shitty, like almost Ebonics. And then when they send a woman down there, she's like, I'm a woman, like I don't know what I'm doing, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is horrible. These are bad renderings of
There's the real horror, yeah.
People. It's like, yeah, here's a black guy, and he's like, yo, boss, like,
word.
I don't know about this motherfucking shit, like, for shizzy. And it's like, oh, God, like, why would you do that? And then the woman's like, I'm scared. It's terrible. And I read through the comments to see if anyone else noticed it. And this story is still getting, like, comments, like, years later. It's people like, oh, yeah, this is one of the best SCPs. Nobody noticed the shitty dialogue.
I guess it's the strength of the premise. But, the same way that I just, I zoom in on the, shitty bickering characters in horror where I'm just like, oh, this is awful. I can't enjoy this.
Yeah, like...
Even the parentheticals for the woman is like, oh, read this in a high, whiny voice.
Yeah.
That seemed unnecessary.
Like, when you ask a woman to take part in, like, a dangerous science experiment, she's like, is it gonna, like, affect my manicure? And, like, I don't want to do this. I want to go to the mall.
Yeah, always putting on her makeup when the monster's right behind her.
Like, can we just, like, go get, like, pumpkin spice lattes? Like,
Doing yoga when, like, everyone else is trying to hide. It's, yeah. Wow.
Shit sucks.
True, yeah.
That is, that was kind of a strength of, to drag it back to our original premise for the episode, that I felt like that was kind of a strength of the Blair Witch Project, where you had, you had a female character, and this probably came out of like the improv.
Okay.
This is like a woman creating a character, not like a woman like rendering like the shitty character given to her by like a bad filmmaker. You had a woman in charge of the project in the film, who is obviously, competent, but gets in a little bit over her head, and who is believable in her reactions. Like she's not just helpless, and she's not leaning on the men in the expedition. In fact, the men like really fucking fail, like in the clutch.
Yeah.
But she does have her moments of terror and vulnerability, which is very important to a horror film. So I felt like that was a strength of the Blair Witch Project, in spite of like the kind of thin premise.
Yeah, I didn't like any of those characters for reasons that I stated.
Well, I don't want to hang out. I don't want to hang out with any of those people, but like as human beings, like way in over their heads in the wilderness on kind of a poorly planned trip. Like I was like, okay, I buy this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was newer at the time, but like a type A person getting in over their head doesn't seem particularly novel to me. It seems like kind of a trope of its own, but I mean, better than just being a shrinking violet, I guess.
Fair. I mean,
Yeah, it's neither here or there. It's a matter of opinion. The point is, SCP is a kind of creepypasta. The Backrooms are a kind of creepypasta, and you saw a video about that on YouTube, about it being an actual real place where someone took a video camera in and filmed it.
Yeah, and it's very clever and involves some clever use of special effects.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, because you're the more avid Redditor, maybe you can tell the nice people what the Backrooms is, because I hadn't even fucking heard of it.
All right.
Until you told me what it was.
On its face, it is stupid.
So, creepypasta that's greatly admired on Reddit, you say?
Yeah, get ready. But yeah, the central horrifying idea of the Backrooms was, what if an empty office building?
I mean, I'm afraid of office buildings, but it's just because like I never want to work an office job ever again.
Yeah, there's work there. You don't want to go back to because you don't want to do any work.
Fuck no.
Yeah, but it's like, the same kind of childhood fear of like, I don't know, getting lost at the mall. It's that sort of idea. Mm-hmm. And it is abstracted. This like, there is a core valid fear in there that is then mapped onto a more modern, relatable environment, which I think is valid. It is because the Backrooms are basically, it is like an abandoned office building that goes on forever. It is the classic Greek labyrinth, right?
Right.
And just like the labyrinth, there's a minotaur in it. Ooh. And we already know what a minotaur is. You can accept that, but if it's something even weirder than that, then you aren't prepared for it. So it's the basic idea of the labyrinth mapped onto an office building. And the interesting thing about it is that it isn't quite an office building. And, there are also notions of the Winchester Mystery House, which, if you aren't from Northern California, is an overbuilt mansion in like Alameda that was just constantly built upon without any regard to like layout or sensibilities. Like they have doors that open into a sink, on the lower level. They have a stairway that doesn't go anywhere. So
yeah, due to the superstition of the owner.
Right. There is a great episode of Skeptoid about the history of the Winchester Mystery House, which is eye-opening to say the least.
Shouts out to Skeptoid.
Shout out to Skeptoid. But yeah, they are. But yeah, that's the basic idea, is that the Backrooms are, you're trapped in an empty building with no way out, and none of the layout makes any kind of sense.
Right.
The irony is that it isn't an office building, and it is in fact misleading to call it the Backrooms, because it is really the back hallways.
Right.
Because the idea is the same thing as being lost, in that you don't have any kind of safe haven. There isn't like a room you can crawl into. You're a mouse evading a cat in an empty room. There's nowhere to hide. And I think that like lower mammalian fear is what drives the sort of the spookiness of the idea behind the back rooms, is that there's nowhere to hide. There's no home here.
Right. And like on a primal level, you could kind of understand that. And I think it's why things like creepypasta or like cursed images or things like that you find online are have a certain potency to them, because it's like, ooh, like it evokes something in your lizard brain that's scary. Unfortunately, I feel like that's enough for some people.
I mean, it's a start. It is interesting in that
like I feel like that's the audience of Paranormal Activity. Like where it's like, oh, like it's on video and like she just like stands there for a long time. It's like that's scary, right?
That's fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like yeah, like you get a little bit of a chill seeing it, because you're like, okay, this isn't normal human behavior, but then you're like, okay, and
right.
That's where I'm at with a lot of my movie watching, and why I get often frustrated with like kind of like not even just film Twitter, but just like the broader like public opinion, where I'm like, you people really don't want anything else out of your fucking movies. Like you're fine with this.
Right, yeah. Just like, oh, what a scary idea.
Yeah, and it's part of why Cure affected me so much, is because like, yes, it's scary. Yes, it has mood and frightening images, but it builds on like this base of extremely interesting and chilling themes. Very sophisticated themes that are resonant, even if you're not Japanese. I mean, Japan has its own unique problems.
Perfect. Yeah.
Japan has its own unique problems, as does America, but there's like a certain there's like a societal alienation and like a darkness to humanity, which is universal. And I think that's why, you know, J-horror kind of like made the leap across. But then I guess for some people, like it's scary enough that the girl with the long hair crawls out of the TV, which is admittedly very scary.
Right. Yeah. But
I mean,
yeah,
like,
that doesn't really make your case, because that is pretty scary.
But I feel that, you know, for things like the Backrooms, like, and it is kind of cool that, and maybe that's part of the appeal of creepypasta, is that people can take these ideas and build on them. It's not just like, ooh, a scary room. And that was one thing I liked about the Backrooms short, is that, like, yes, it's like, okay, this could plausibly be a room like in a hotel. It reminded me of like, you know, when you wander into kind of like the conference room area of a hotel. Mm-hmm. And it's like, there are all these huge, like, disused rooms. It like had that feel to it. Yeah.
Or even like, you know, if you go into a stairwell where it's like, it's a one-way door, where like, oh, you can get into the stairwell, but it's like, you can't go back the way you came. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah. And, you know, those familiar things are scary, but I liked the way that, and maybe they were drawing from people's creepypasta ideas, like, I'm not sure. But then when it kind of moved into like surrealism, like dream logic, where it's like, oh, there's an opening high up on the wall with a ladder leading to it. Like, that's fucking weird. Like, you don't see that in hotels.
Right.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Or and then as the short goes on and the architecture just gets fucking weirder.
Yeah, it kind of was a little reminiscent of the Cube movies as well.
Yeah, and that was something which, and we had a recent episode where I feel like I missed the opportunity to talk about surrealism. And that episode was Mother.
Love Witch. Oh.
No, and a lot of people had problems with Mother because of kind of like the...
Yes, a lot of people do have problems with Mother.
Norman. People had problems with that movie because of kind of like the barefaced simplicity of the premise and the fact that it doesn't hang together the way kind of the way the Bible does, if you really look at it intensely.
Well, I mean, you know, that is also in its own way anthology horror. You know, it's just a bunch of stories compiled by different authors. You know.
Yeah, and oh shit, someone should make a horror movie out of the 19th chapter of the Book of Judges. Look that one up. But I saw this point made, and I don't know if it was even maybe made by Aronofsky himself. I think it was, where he spoke about not just Buñuel, but just like kind of like surrealistic filmmaking in general, which is not really a thing anymore. I think.
Yeah, it ended with the 70s auteur wave.
Well, and I think it's partly because there isn't necessarily the most receptive audience for it, because we live in an age of social media where everything is so relentlessly picked over, and kind of the stock reaction is like, I don't know, like, I just didn't, it was just, I didn't believe it. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, you can't really do surrealism anymore in a universe where superheroes have been made realistic, like, quote unquote. People don't buy into surrealism anymore, or like, and I don't know, like, I think maybe at the time people didn't buy into surrealism because it's like, what is this fucked up, degenerate shit? People have always been like kind of shitty and reactionary in that way. But there was a time when you could kind of go with dream logic, and people would roll with it. And that's kind of the feel of the Backrooms, where it's like, okay, well, this is a large disused space, but oh shit, like the further I go, like the less sense this space, this entire building makes.
Yeah, I hate to bring it up again because I think I mentioned it, or like I just harped on it in like episode 48 or something. But it was the concept of the Nega Dungeon, which someone else in the tabletop gaming community had put forth. It is the idea that the longer that you continue on this path, the worse it gets. Like there's no reward for continuing to do this. So
I don't remember talking about that, so I think it's fair for you to bring it up.
All right, great, yes. So yeah,
I'm not bored of this topic.
It's something that I mentioned offhandedly in 2017, and now I'm gonna bring it up again. No, the idea that the further that you continue on to a particular path, just the worse it gets for you. Where it is kind of a common structure in horror movies, where it's like, look, if you just like went home, you would be fine. But, if you had to find out more about this thing, or if you had to continue investigating whatever this issue is, or if you had to keep chasing the monster, then things only get worse for you the longer you continue. So it's in that same way, the Backrooms kind of follows that same form, because as you get further into it, the weirder it gets.
There's no relief.
Yeah, there's no relief. There's no escape. There's no respite. There's, you can't, speaking of RPGs, you can't even take a short rest in the Backrooms because there's nowhere to hang out.
Yeah,
it's a dungeon.
Whatever that thing is.
Yeah, there's that, being chased by, whatever the abstract version of a Minotaur is. Same idea.
Can I just say how annoyed I was that the thumbnail on YouTube for that short is a spoiler, in a way?
Yeah, that's annoying.
It's why would you do that?
It is also somewhat enticing to be like, hey, here's a weird thing. Because, maybe if the thumbnail was like a still from Office Space, you'd be like, how is this scary?
That's true, because and you're right that YouTube thumbnails are expected to be like a certain thing to get people to click on the video. So maybe that wasn't something I was taking into account, but hey.
Yeah. Well,
the movie does have its pleasures beyond like a weird creature. So
right, yeah. To even kind of just reduce it to that, to be like, there's more to it than just being like, oh, I'm being chased by a monster. It's more like there's this weird abstract landscape that you're trapped in, and that has its own kind of horror to it. Yeah. And also there's a Minotaur.
Yes.
But more importantly, you don't know where you are or how to get from one place to another because it doesn't make any sense. Which, again, if we're going back to, sort of like lower mammalian fears, it's like, hey, you ever been playing Minecraft and it's nighttime? Yeah, or just like being lost in the forest. That isn't anything that's happened to any of us or any of our listeners, I'm sure, because when's the last time any of us have ever touched grass? But it's the same basic idea where it's like, I'm in a big place and I don't know where I am, and that's it.
Tim, it's very ableist to tell people to touch grass.
All right, well, touch my ass.
If we have any hot lady listeners and you want Tim to touch ya, hit us up at info@haveyouseen.us, and we will take those under consideration.
Right, yeah.
Also, if you are a sexy lady listener, hey, what's up?
Jen, I admire your optimism.
Hey, it's the only thing that keeps me going in the 7 days I have left to live.
Right, yeah. The only thing that keeps me going through these back rooms that I'm trapped in, huh?
It did make me think of the first time that I played Minecraft, and I made a little structure because I was like, okay, I guess this is what you do, and I wanted to dig like I like the idea of like a subterranean lair, so I built that. And then, night fell. And then the next thing I know, there was this guy, like, standing in the entrance to my little dwelling. And he wouldn't leave. He was just standing there. And I was like, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? And I think I might have, like, taken a picture and sent it to you. Mm-hmm. I was like, what is that? And you were like, oh, that's an Enderman. Just don't look at him.
Right, yeah.
But the fucker wouldn't leave. Like, I hid from him, and I would take a peek, and he was still just, like, fucking standing there. I think he was stuck because the entrance to my little dwelling was only, like, 1 cube.
Yeah, it's
big.
Yeah, it'd be 2 cubes high in Enderman or 3 cubes tall. But yeah, it's funny that it is just, like, a fun digital Lego game for kids that is also fucking terrifying.
I was so scared, and I got the same feeling like watching Backrooms because I was like, what is that? What is that? What is that?
Yeah, there's no escape. There's no place to hide. You're always like constantly under threat, and all you can at best hope to do is to like burrow down into your little cave and try and lock the door and hope that no one notices you. Like you're like your little scared mouse, and it's the age of the dinosaurs still.
Yeah, and you're like, hey, and like, and
like 50
so
million
many
years
horror
we haven't
movies.
been able to shake that.
Like in so many horror movies, you're just waiting for morning and praying you live that long.
Yeah. So, this is all like, super prehistoric stuff that is programmed into our, just our subconscious, that whether it takes the place of, an open forest or a video game or an abandoned office building, still evokes the same kind of feelings.
Or maybe a spooky shack in the desert.
Or a spooky shack in the desert. Say that you're an intrepid explorer, some kind of outdoorsman, someone who likes to go to places that are off the beaten path. You've got a fun blog about this. You send out videos, but you don't tell people where you're going because you don't want, all the rabble to come in and start, stepping on historic, burial sites and things of that sort. But let's say that you're in a part of Nevada and you like trains and you are the protagonist for Horror in the High Desert. And then one day you go missing.
Oop.
Yeah, I watched that because I, some of Jen's morbid curiosity has rubbed off on me. I read the entirety of that long-form article on, the German tourists in Death Valley.
Ooh, yeah. Great read. Very sad, but a fascinating story.
Yeah, and you can figure, too, that the people in that were not a bunch of bickering assholes. Maybe, the dad was getting a little short with everyone because it's like, look, we've got to return the car to San Francisco or whatever so we can make our flight on Tuesday. And if we just keep going, then we'll make it. But it isn't just someone being like, yeah, I threw the map in the creek. Nah.
Well, they were German tourists, so I'm sure they were obnoxious.
Right, yeah, in their own way, forming pyramids and drinking Watney's Red Barrel.
Rest in peace, by the way.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so I had read that, and I find it a fascinating story about what do you do when you are. It is man versus nature. I think some philosopher mentioned that as one of the 4 basic stories. And, you're at your very limit. What do you do in that situation? So already I was interested in Horror in the High Desert based on that premise alone, because I'd read the thing about the German tourists, and they weren't dummies. They made mistakes, but they weren't just like blithering idiots who, took a 6-pack of beer into the desert. They were people who thought, if I only keep going, I can make it. Yeah. And that is kind of the tragic flaw that is central to that story. So I put on Horror in the High Desert from, I think, 2021. It was a film made during quarantine. I don't think any actors appear together in the movie.
Nope.
Yeah. And it is the brilliance in the subtlety of it is that it sells itself as an amateur true crime documentary. And
right.
I want to emphasize amateur because it is even doing some very deft sleight of hand with what it is telling you. It is it already has you thinking, oh, this is, just a dumb documentary that isn't going to really lead anywhere, where it's going to be like, this guy that no one seems to care about because he's just some hiker who went missing. He went missing, and we're going to talk to his, dumb friends and family, and they're going to give some platitudes, and then at the end we'll just, we'll close it with a question mark and be like, okay, well, this documentary is, I'm not expecting a lot of it going in. And that's the way that the movie kind of lures you in the same way that a lot of characters when facing, and this gets back to, like Final Girl theory stuff, where it's if it is the dumb jock who thinks, oh, I can just take on this monster, I can just hit him, but then, he ends up getting gutted and everyone's terrified. You're the dumb jock in this. You're the one going, oh, this is just a stupid movie made by amateurs. I'm not going to get scared. And then you watch it and you find out that you've actually been lured into this movie's trap.
Yeah, and in fact, when you recommended it to me, I was like, okay, well, this I have to see because, like, Tim is not just going to recommend any old, like, found footage horror film. He's pretty hard to impress at this point.
Yeah, I don't like most things. Sorry.
That's kind of the premise of our show, to be honest. Yeah. So I took a look at it, and like you, I was impressed by its the fact that it was a really good simulacrum of a true crime documentary.
Yeah.
The kind of thing that you might see on Oxygen or Investigation Discovery, or maybe you would come across on Tubi. You'd be like, oh, what's this? Like, it was, it's kind of a inexpensively made true story about like a friend who disappeared.
Yeah, and considering I've watched other garbage like that, that's probably what fooled me.
Right, and so you're like, okay, like, let's see where this goes. And then you finish the movie and you're like, holy shit, for like the last 10 minutes, I was absolutely shitting my fucking pants.
Right,
and I texted you and I was like, I can't believe it. I saw in 2022 a found footage horror movie that was actually scary. Yeah,
it is terrifying. And it's great because, like I said, it sets up this trap for you, the viewer, because it throws in a lot of stuff. It is masterful in its misdirection. It throws in a lot of things that you think are what the movie is about, but they're not. Like there are some shots because the guy also like model railroading. I think he's billed as being a little autistic.
A little.
Yeah, or maybe that's just my assumption.
There is a tell right up front. Like, as soon as they mentioned trains, I was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, like, they've got little segments of, like, his model railroad running around, and, like, they're shot on, like, a handy cam. They're shot on an iPhone, and it's like, this is fucking stupid as hell, this dumb documentary. And the dumb documentary is just like, oh, sweet summer child, I fucking got you. You don't even know it, and I got you. And
that's really important, and also why I got really drawn into it, is because, this isn't just, like, some, like, backpacker who got lost in the wilderness. There's this odd pathos to the picture that you develop of the character, because from
character development in a found footage movie at last.
Because the premise is like, it's obviously it's people who knew him talking about him, his roommate, his sister. You get a little bit of the family history, and then you get a picture of this man, Gary, from the footage that was left behind, like his vlogs, the reminiscences of the people who knew him. And you get this picture of a true outsider, and someone who appeared to be like a perfectly nice person, but who was a little at odds with like the rest of society. And, you know, it's like we can go, oh, ha, ha, trains, like autism. But it's like, that's a really important aspect of the character. And not only do you learn that he was
well, we have enough details about him to ground him in reality, which is important.
What I'm getting at is that there are so many signifiers about this guy which mark him as an outsider, because not only is he autistic, you see him speaking on camera and he's got a slight speech impediment, and he was gay.
Yeah.
Like they mentioned that he, you know, a lead that was followed up by a detective who speaks in the movie is that, yeah, you know, we, you know, looking for suspects, we found like someone he was talking to on Facebook Messenger. And, you know, both of them were very, like, this person and Gary himself, they were both circumspect about their sexuality. You know, they live in Nevada and maybe they didn't want to fucking be out to people. And as the movie progresses, you're like, wow, like, this guy was really isolated. And, like, in a way, like, self-isolating, because he spent so much time in the wilderness. He had, and not just as a hiker and a backpacker, like, with a real survivalist bent, like someone who wanted to be completely self-sufficient to the point where he could live in the wilderness on his own if he had to. And like that was a way that he challenged himself. Like his roommate alludes to it. He's like, yeah, he didn't want to let us, you know, bring like enough food or water or anything. But you get the impression that this was a guy who could take care of himself perfectly well in the wilderness, but who was like totally out of step with people, even to the point of there being like some built up resentment on the part of his sister, because you find out that she blamed him as a child for like the death of their parents.
Yeah. And that's another great piece of misdirection, is that when they introduce the sister and they provide her backstory and their conflict, it's easy enough to hate the sister and be like, oh, the sister is the villain of the story, until we find out that, I don't know, like he, you know, maybe he had misadventure like this, you know, German family in Death Valley, where it's like, maybe he just ran out of water. Maybe he was attacked by animals. Maybe he had like, you know, a nutty putty cave situation. He fell down a mine shaft.
Ah!
Yeah. Maybe it's just like some kind of horrible death by misadventure where you can be like, oh, that's sad that he died of mysterious reasons, but it gets so much worse than that.
Right. And interestingly, this was inspired by a true story. And I know that the saying is like, oh, truth is stranger than fiction, but the incident that inspired this movie actually appears to be quite prosaic, because it one of the things that inspired this movie was the disappearance of a man named Kenny Veach, who was a vlogger who, you know, kind of like poked around the desert, and he had left a post on a social media site where he's like, oh, dude, like I found like this. And it really is like, you read the post and you're like, come on, dude.
Right.
He left a post on a social media site where he's like, dude, I was in the desert and I found this cave that was like shaped like an M. And then when I got close to it, like I felt like these like vibes that were like really crazy. It was like the vibes were just like insane. Like it just felt weird. And it's like, that's it. And then he disappeared. And if you read up about the case, you're like, okay, well, obviously he got lost and died, or came to some sort of misadventure. Right. Life is pretty prosaic, and you know, most people aren't getting abducted by aliens, or you know, and getting kidnapped by like a bunch of hillbillies who want to take you to dinner. Or, exactly.
Right. It isn't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. And so the Kenny Veach story, like the real life inspiration, is actually like fairly dull as like unsolved mysteries go, because you can connect the dots pretty easily.
Yeah.
I don't want to seem like I'm shitting on the guy. Like, you know, this was a human being who disappeared. There are suggestions that he was in some financial trouble. So maybe it was a suicide. Maybe he was just trying to drum up interest for his YouTube channel. Who knows? But it is a tragic story. But there isn't a lot to it, whereas the tale that's built up in Horror of the High Desert is more interesting because there are more facets to it.
Yeah, you're wondering what is it that's happened, because one of the other things too is that they do show his truck parked at like the trailhead. And really weirdly too is that I thought they were just doing this as mood for the true crime documentary, but the photos that they show, like the real true crime photos that they show, they start with the black screen and they take forever to like develop, to like bring it back to like its full brightness or its full opacity. And like it is you as the viewer just like staring through your screen, trying to make out details of this what could be a horrible scene, like as they're presented to you, and just like this really deliberately slow way that builds tension before they reveal what the photograph is actually of.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat little encapsulation of the entire movie.
Yeah. One of the other things too, like before they actually let on until it's too late for you to do anything, is that you are wondering like what happened to him, because even just like the Backrooms, if it is you just out alone in the wilderness by yourself, just meeting another person can be fatal.
Yeah, like
because you don't know who you're going to meet, and there's no like escape hatch, there's no cancel.
Yeah, like
you're stuck in the situation.
Yeah, there are a couple of stories of encounters on the Appalachian Trail that went bad, which are kind of in the same vein, because most people who do that long through hiking will not get murdered, but there have been a couple of murders. Yeah, but that's because the human animal is very unpredictable at times.
Yeah, and that's something too that when I guested on Right Good, that other podcast, that was to talk about an anthology of Australian horror, and a lot of the themes in that are just the roll of the dice of meeting another person in the wilderness. Yeah. Or conversely, if you get into a spot of trouble, there is no chance that anyone is going to come help you. Yes. So putting the protagonist of horror in the high desert in either of those situations is potentially fatal. Like, you just say, you run out of water or you get lost. Like, even just getting a few feet off the trail. Like, there have been numerous stories about, people being found and they're just like, within a stone's throw of the trail. But just, something as a mistake as mundane as that can end your life. Or you can just meet the wrong person at the wrong time, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, because at first this story could be like incredibly prosaic. It just could be somebody who got slightly out of their depth in the wilderness and came to a bad end. But it's
or even
more,
just an unsolved murder.
Yeah, and it's like more sinister and mysterious than that. And the movie is very effective because it is such a good simulation of this particular kind of documentary. I said earlier it's very au courant, with true crime as a genre still being like in its full flower.
Because it looks like just a low budget true crime documentary.
Yeah, and props to the people that they got to act on screen, because there is no fakery to it. I mean, I mentioned that other thing that I was watching on Tubi where I knew it was fucking fake in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it has a kind of amateurish authenticity to it. Where it's we're talking to a local news person, and because like they maybe aren't super articulate or poised, it's like, oh, they're local news. Of course they aren't.
Well, and one thing that I noticed that I also have to give them props for is, and this is a huge flaw in a lot of B movies, is they cannot fake a news broadcast to save their asses. They really can't. And not even like really egregious examples like in Things.
Right. Okay.
Or Birdemic, where it's like have you ever even watched like cable news? There's a mock-up of a cable news story in this movie, which is 100% plausible. It looks exactly like something you would scan past on cable. Like, you get past like CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, and you're like, OAN, what the fuck is this shit? Like, it looks exactly right, and the person doing the newscast is 100% like a real newscaster on cable news.
Yeah, it's sort of that banality lends to authenticity.
Yeah, and and I think that's a problem with a lot of B movies is they think like, oh, we'll just get somebody to look into the camera and read the news. It's like, no, like
no,
there's
a
reason that they
look like.
Yeah, there's a reason that they don't just get like any random person to like read off the fucking teleprompter. Like these people actually go through like years of broadcasting before they get to cable.
Yeah.
So the movie has that authenticity to it, which kind of draws you in. It has the character aspects, which make it really unique. Like it's
yeah, they dole out the character development pretty expertly, like, because it is sparing in the detail that they give you, and each one seems to lead to another clue to the puzzle that you think you're going to solve at the end.
Yeah, and the central character in this movie is, and I don't want to sound like I'm pitying the guy, but like his quirks make him like that much more tragic a figure, because he does seem like, I mean, he seems like a guy that I could know from like my extended friend group.
Yeah, I mean, you are friends with a lot of misfits. Uh-oh.
I mean, yeah, like, and he does come across as someone who just really doesn't like people, and that's why he's in the fucking wilderness with his dog all the time.
Right.
But you understand like why he would feel that way, because you get the sense from childhood that he was a little bit off. Was probably mocked for his affect and like his speech impediment and everything, and also he's queer. Right. Yeah, like,
a lot of things working against him.
And yet, like, he's like a lot of people on, who are misfits or who are on the spectrum, like they carve out a particular niche and they get like really fucking good at something. And maybe that's another element of the tragedy of the film. It's not just like, oh, he fell into a ravine and broke his leg and died or something like that. Oh, he fucked up, you know.
Some banal death by misadventure.
Yeah, no, he ended up against something like intensely hostile and terrifying. Right.
Yeah, because just like that earlier, true-ish account of being like, oh, I found this weird thing in the desert, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go back.
Yeah.
And then, we've been pretty well grounded in reality up until now. There's some kind of mysterious stranger that they think he met, someone who's like driving his truck barefoot to like move it to a different place. So they're like, okay, so like maybe he just like met some like hillbilly, maybe he met someone on meth or whatever, and that's what happened. And then, because the movie has been doing such a good job of doling out information, then they're like, oh, and by the way, here's the last video that he recorded. Oof. And yeah, and we're ready for that video, and it's him in the darkness, just with like the infrared light on the camera.
Which he needs to see.
So already it's sort of like, if you recall in The Descent, when they're in a pitch black cave and they're only able to look through the viewfinder to see, and knowing what that is like, knowing that it's pitch black all around you, you have nowhere safe that you can retreat to, just like in the back rooms, and then it is, having to look through this one very narrow field of view to see whatever's coming at you. Yeah, you thought it was bad in
scary.
Aliens. Yeah, it's being out in the open, exposed, and claustrophobic. And until he happens upon this broken down shack, and you're like, okay, it's just a shack, and then you focus on it, and then like something that like it's like a video effect where it moves, and that is the point for me, when the penny drops in the film, where it's like, I've been watching a found footage horror movie this entire time and had no idea.
Oh my god. Yeah, and the thing was like
the trap snaps shut at that point.
And the thing was like, I was primed for this, and like apparently you were not. Like,
no, I was not at all.
Which is great. Like that's
it saves
awesome.
It is a horror movie that saves in everything for the very last scene. Like, it's been building and building and building for, 80 minutes, and they don't show you a goddamn thing until the very last scene. And it is absolutely gripping terror.
Yeah, and it pretty much plays out like almost in real time.
Yeah.
And you're holding your breath for like 10 solid minutes.
Yeah, because you're just waiting for whatever it is to come out of the darkness through that viewfinder, before, only to like find that it's too late because of, the distance on that light is so slight that whatever's coming at you is going to be upon you before you can even react. And he's even got a gun with him, but it doesn't do him any good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was prepared. Like, he understood the wilderness. It's just that he, kind of, he happened upon that thing that you don't really, like, count on when you're a survivalist necessarily. It's like, what is this? Like, what even is this? And the extra element of tragedy of it is the fact that Gary was basically pressured into this by his followers online. Mm-hmm. And they make it clear that, and this is also what makes the movie like quite relevant. It's not just the true crime element, but also the factor of online bullying, where people online are so eager to like call bullshit and like hogpile someone. And, hogpiling like a nice guy like Gary who just wants to go, hike in the wilderness, be with his dog, like find cool trains, make his little videos.
Yeah, if you're in your element, it's fine, but he is, just like the viewer, finds himself way out of his depth when it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you do when like all your followers are like bullying you? Where they're like, yeah, you didn't find shit. Like, there's no proof. Like, you're just making this up for views. Like, blah blah blah. Yeah. And I think with that autistic single-mindedness, he's like, no, I did see this, and I'm going to prove it. Even though, like, I kind of got a creepy feeling when I saw this thing. I'm going to prove to you that it was there. And that just makes it so much sadder.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they held, they played their cards really close to the vest until the very end. I think was just an excellent form of pacing. They sent up a lot of, red herrings and a lot of misdirection until, like I said, at the end, it's like, oh shit, I'm watching a horror movie and I didn't even realize it. Like, that for me, I think is the masterstroke of this ostensibly true crime documentary.
Yeah, like, very well done, and it is streaming on Tubi. So if you're as jaded as we are about the state of horror these days, that one might be worth checking out.
Yeah, find it at your local Backrooms.
If you get out.
Yes. You'll watch it forever.
Ah. Oh, well, I'm going to cut this like a Monty Python episode where the credits come in like 3/4 of the way through.